Welcome to the second annual Shop Small Saturday Authors Fair, hosted by Rochester Writers and the Rochester Hills Public Library. This event is airing on both Saturday and Sunday after Thanksgiving. And now we have the pleasure of speaking with Danielle Bernock from Sterling Heights. Where are you from, Danielle?
Shelby Township.
Shelby Township. I was really close. But you're a local author, and most of our authors are right around this area, Michigan-based authors in the area of Greater Rochester. And you have a newer book out, but this isn't your first book. Tell us about your writing journey.
Oh, my writing journey started with my first book, Emerging with Wings. It's my true story of becoming free from childhood trauma and finding my value. And it started just one day. I felt prompted to begin writing it, and it was a whole journey of writing it. And then I self-published it, and it was one thing after another. And then I took the courage to actually put it out there, which was terrifying when you're sharing a memoir and of your own personal story. But the response I got to it was so overwhelming that it really prompted me into going into writing and not just writing a book. So that it's like my flagship book, starting that got me into writing online and in publications and other books and all coaching and all kinds of other things I do. So it all started with that first book, Emerging with Wings.
And how did you come to want to write that first book?
I had a story I had to tell that it was chasing me. I couldn't not write it. When you have a story that you have been transformed so much that you have to share that with someone else, and then it was evidenced after publishing that it really does move people. So I'm really glad I took the courage to do that. But it's like when you have something burning in your heart, it's like a dream that you have to share it with everyone else.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to mention that also joining us today is Tiffany from the Rochester Hills Public Library. Tiffany, would you like to introduce yourself and say hello to Danielle?
Hi, Danielle. I'm Tiffany Dzierman-Stazicki. I'm the Community Relations Manager with the Rochester Hills Public Library. So we're very honored to have you with us this morning.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I really appreciate it. And libraries are great places for people to go and find out what they like and to immerse themselves in knowledge. So thank you for the library.
Absolutely.
So Danielle, you've been very active in the writing community since you jumped in. And did you have any idea that you were going to publish as many books as you have?
I had no idea whatsoever. If you would have told me 6 years ago I'd be sitting here doing this, I would have laughed at you. No, I had no idea. I had that one book. I had an inkling or maybe a hope that it might turn into something, but really no plan. It has been an evolving thing as you grow in your life and you give yourself to other people to help them grow. It's like you prime a pump and things just start to flow out.
And that is how it works with many authors. I mean, every path to publication is different, but it's so unique to each author, so much emotion and passion and desire to tell your story. And it's a tough story that you're telling for yourself.
Oh, yes, it was a tough story. Like I said, I was terrified to release it, but I felt like as I stripped off all my clothes and ran around the world naked, when you share things with the public that you hadn't shared with any other human, it makes yourself very vulnerable that way. But that's what connects people, is those things that we tend to hide.
It's I think you described it really well with how that you just strip down and reveal yourself, all the inner parts that make you who you are. And of course, some of that has changed who you are now. by doing this, correct?
Oh, definitely, definitely. It's like I have something in my book I was going to share today that if you want, I could share that right now because it really highlights what you're talking about, that change. Would that be all right?
Yes, please do.
So I read and don't stumble. I need to stick these things on my face. There's a little section here called It's a Journey. A year from now, you will wish you had started today. Karen Lamb. This journey isn't easy or fast. You didn't get where you are now in a moment, and becoming your true whole self isn't a work of magic. This process will be extensive, but worth everything you have. I began my journey unaware of how the term ownership applied to my life. In 2014, I released my first book, Emerging with Wings, to the world. I took a step in vulnerability. I'd never taken it before. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. Shame held me captive, causing me to hide most of my life. Sharing my story, warts and all, made me feel like I stripped off all my clothes and ran around the world naked. The way people responded shocked me. I touched them far deeper than I dared to hope. The positive reviews, texts, and emails were astounding. Discovering my book, my story, was being used in a sermon boggled my mind. Not long after, I learned how fragile my new understanding was when asked to speak to a group of women. Instead of accepting the offer, I recoiled in fear. The lost moment in my fearful response plagued me. Why wasn't I able to accept this amazing opportunity? Isn't this why I shared my story? If I had emerged with wings, as the book said, then this wouldn't be happening. What was wrong with me? I thought I was different. I was. What these questions revealed was a need for more growth. Enter the story of a newly emerged butterfly and how it relates to our lives. Learning from the butterfly. You must want to fly so much that you are willing to give up being a caterpillar. Trina Paulus. My first book is a journey of becoming free from childhood trauma and finding my value. I compared my transformation to a caterpillar, changing into a butterfly and emerging from its chrysalis. What I wrote was true. I was different. I was in a new place with wrong information. I thought newly emerged butterflies just flew away. They don't. The new me was like a newly emerged butterfly. When a butterfly emerges, it's completely intact, but unable to fly. It has a process it must complete or it will never fly. How does a butterfly truly live if it never flies? It doesn't. The wings of a new butterfly are weak and wet, and they must be prepared for flight. They need to hang upside down with plenty of room for their wings to expand. They need to pump blood or hemolymph into the veins in their wings so they can expand to their full size. Their wings must dry. They must exercise their flight muscles. I didn't know that butterflies had muscles, did you? Finally, the butterfly must expel muconium, poop, which is the waste remains of its last meal from when it was a caterpillar. During this process, the new butterfly looks like it's doing nothing, but it's quite busy. Likewise, when I emerged, I couldn't fly. I needed to prepare my proverbial wings. During my writing process, multiple transformative things occurred. Revelations, realizations, and courage to become vulnerable. I went through the publishing process and still the fear was there. On the day I released it, I was not fit to fly. I needed to do several things. Own this new life like a butterfly prepares its wings. Give myself time to see from this new perspective and let these new things sink in like the butterfly hangs upside down. Give myself the grace and space I needed for this new process like the butterfly needs room to expand. Build new mindsets like the butterfly pumps blood into its wings. Solidify my new beliefs like the butterfly exercises its muscles. And like the butterfly needs to poop before it can fly, I needed to get rid of some crap in my life. Only after doing so could I move on to learn and become skilled in using my new wings. Danger. A masterpiece does not unfurl its wings immediately. It takes time. It will fly when it's ready. A.D. Posey. It's in this part of a butterfly's life it's most vulnerable to predators because it can't fly away. I was in a place of danger it didn't understand until it happened. An epic meltdown that changed my life.
I think it's really neat the way that you use all of those metaphors of the butterfly to describe, your journey, your path, and your transformation. Um, i- may I ask how you got that idea to weave that into your storytelling of your life?
Um, well, I was really quite freaked out when I was asked to speak. I'm like, this is my opportunity. And I didn't jump at it. I recognized so much fear in myself. And I was like, what's wrong with me? And so I did some research of what is wrong. And there's a book that I love that I read during the process of writing Emerging with Wings that I even quote. And there's that one quote about being a butterfly and giving up being a caterpillar by Trina Paulus. It's from her book, Hope for the Flowers. And it's the story of two caterpillars and them giving up their life as a caterpillar to become what they were created to be, and the process that they go through and the striving they go through and how they try so hard to do like everybody else, but that doesn't work. They have to become their true self.
And you've really embraced the wings, um, with a lot of imagery
Mhm.
and promotional and kind of a marketing tool. Can you tell us how that has evolved and how that has helped you with marketing and selling your books?
Oh, well, it just, I went through so many titles of, I didn't have the title for my first book until it was done. I had like 2 or 3 pages of Word documents of possible titles. And it was my first book. I'd never written a book. I had no clue what I was doing. But it's like at the end of the book, it's like I gained a freedom. And anyone who's seen Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, they are the cartoon, they know this image when, Rudolph is having so much of a hard time flying. He just can't do it. But then Clarice comes in and tells him that he's cute. And so he gets so elated that he just, starts jumping around and then he just starts flying because the elation within him lifts him up. And that's where I got the emerging with wings. It was the elation of coming to the knowledge of my value and the freedom of knowing that I matter and knowing that I'm loved and that I could heal and all the wonderfulness I discovered that I just, like I could take off flying just like Rudolph did. And then I came across this necklace. I wear this all the time with the wings. And it's an opportunity. People say, oh, I like your necklace. And I have an opportunity to tell them about my book. And some people are more interested and some are not. And some just want one of the necklaces.
Can you
There you
describe that moment when you realized that this was something that you needed to write down? I always think it's interesting to find out why authors want to write. What is that part in them that says this needs to be written down? People need to hear this story.
Oh, it was a long process. I actually have an article on a website called Two Drops of Ink that charts that because I had thought of writing a book and had thought of writing a book and thought of writing a book, but I didn't. And then I met a gentleman when I lived in Arizona for a while, and he called me a wordsmith after I sent him an email. I'm like, it's an email. And I just couldn't shake that. But still, I didn't write my book. And it was probably a year or two later, I'm not quite sure, I don't remember the timeline right now. And I was doing my morning daily devotions, and I had this one, and the title of it was Dare to Decide. And that day, it was September 29th, 2012, that I dared to decide to sit down and write the book. It's like I drew a line in the sand. It's like, today's the day. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm starting. And everything along the way, it's like I had to have the book. So that's what kept pushing me on every time I got discouraged and frustrated and ran into a wall because I was new at all of that.
Has becoming an author changed your life, in a can you tell us about the positive and negatives that maybe becoming an author has done for you?
I don't know that I have any negatives of becoming an author. I I enjoy it, and it's a creative outlet, and I find it interesting how other people will look at me like it's all that, and I don't tend to think that. But then I need to remember that not there's what 81% of people say they want to write a book, and only 4% do. And so when people go, "Oh, you're an author," I have to look back and remember all the things that I went through to accomplish that. And it's like, it gives you a sense of purpose, a sense of accomplishment. Yes, I did do this. I did complete this. So it makes you feel good about yourself that you finished something that you said you would do.
And we have to remind everyone that you're telling a story, and it's a very personal story, and the story is designed to um, be a bit of therapy for yourself, but also for readers. Can you tell us about the people who have read your book and given you feedback, and how has it helped them in their struggles and for them to emerge with wings?
Oh, and the different books are a little different. The first ones I got all kinds of feedback of because I used to feel like God was against me and I was afraid of him. And I had other people, they'd approach me. It's like I didn't know anyone else was afraid of God. And I felt like that too. And all of the validation of they're not alone. A lot of I'm not alone from my first book, Emerging with Wings, whereas my second book is more of self-help meets memoir. And I actually have 10 other people's story in it besides mine. So that connects people a little more because it reaches across the racial divide and the gender divide and the age divide and the faith divide, because there's people of all different, there's 10 different people I interviewed for that. And so there's 11 different kinds of trauma that are represented in that. And so there are people that pick it up and they go through the book. Some have read it all the way through because you matter. I have others that have gone through it over and over again, or they get in one chapter, because it's owning different parts of your life, one piece at a time, owning your courage and owning your pain and owning your purpose and owning your choices and all the different things like that. And then after each chapter, there's one of those stories where each of these 10 people share how they took ownership of their life, and then they emerged victorious, or they are thriving or having wings, however you want to look at it, with the second book, because they are thriving in their lives now. They had to face down the monster of trauma, and they dealt with the hard work, and they have conquered, they have overcome. And so it helps other people to see the variety and how they can have their trauma is personal and go on their own journey. That trauma is personal quotes in my first book, and that was one of the things that resonated. I still find it, people quote it in their books, and I find it on people's websites and memes all over the place. But people need that validation that trauma is personal. It's not an event. It's what happened to you. Whether someone else thinks it should have traumatized you or not is irrelevant. Because what traumatizes a person, it's their heart, it's their soul, it's their mind. And to tell them that they're not traumatized, you're just adding to that trauma. So for them to be able to say, wow, I can own this, I can work my way through this, even though so-and-so said it was not a big deal and you're making a big deal out of nothing. Yes, yes, you have the right to heal because you matter. You have great value.
It's such a powerful message, Danielle. It's almost you've become an expert in a way on trauma and the situations that people have to deal with and own. There's a lot of people that don't own up and own their trauma, and they suffer. What can you tell those people that might be listening today that maybe have a situation that they need to take ownership of?
Oh, that's my mission. My mission is to make the invisible seen. As people, they dismiss it as no big deal, and so it becomes invisible in their life, but still they have the side effects. And so I encourage you to see the side effects in your life, recognize that there is a reason, there is a cause for those. And if you will take ownership and look for the root of that, because a tree is as big on the outside as its roots are down below. And there are reasons for the side effects. There are so many different side effects of childhood trauma and childhood emotional neglect, which is the biggest invisible wound people suffer with, because abuse is something that happens to you, but neglect is something you didn't get that you should have gotten. And so there's an empty space, but you don't know what you're missing. And so the best thing I encourage people is if they have these side effects in their lives, and I have courses and things to help them identify that. How do I know if that's me? Well, there are certain things. If this is going on in your life, well, there's a reason. And so if they need help, I'm here to help people do that, to identify, is that there? And you will be so much happier if you will take ownership of the things that are bringing you pain, because you can get to the other side of pain and find joy, just like Rudolph flying through the air.
Well, I think your enthusiasm, your passion, your smile, it all shows that you got there. And it may be that you're never completely there. It's a lifelong journey,
Right.
but you certainly have captured it. And let's remind everyone that we are speaking with Danielle Bernock. Could you tell everyone where to go to get more information, to find out about your books and your speaking engagements and your coaching?
Well, my website is daniellebernock.com. My books are available on Amazon, and my newest one, Because You Matter, is available both in paperback, Kindle, and audio. And Emerging with Wings is available in paperback and Kindle. And I have another one on Kindle alone. But my website, you can find out everything there. But I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn. If you Google my name, you will be able to find me, because I've worked very hard to have a presence online and also in person, because I do speaking locally, also do workshops online, and I'm available to help people or organizations. I speak at organizations to help them. And in whatever way I can, my heart is I want to serve people so they can enjoy their life and they can be productive and they can do what they dream.
Tiffany, do you have any last questions for Danielle?
I guess one thing I would ask is, like, what is the inspiration you get from the reactions to your book? Does it just make you want to keep going? Does it make you just, what does that feel like for you?
Oh, it feeds my soul, but my why is deeper than that. So I don't have to get that feedback, because if I let that be my motivation, then if I get someone who doesn't like it, or they don't have that problem, or they're one of the ones that think I'm making a big deal out of nothing, then that would tear me down. So that's not my root motivation, but it definitely feeds my soul. Every time I get an email or something, I savor the joy that I have helped another person find freedom.
That's fantastic, Danielle. I think we'll leave it with that. I think that's a powerful message. More with the Authors Fair coming up.